My mother-in-law has diabetes, but she still loves to eat high-calorie fried foods like buns, steamed buns, and braised pork. I strictly followed the doctor's advice and required her to eat a light diet, avoiding sugar and oily foods, but she always likes to secretly eat in her room. She even cried to my father-in-law and younger brother-in-law multiple times, saying I don't let her eat enough, behind my back. She told my son that I keep all the good food for my own family. And she incited my son to not take care of me when he grows up. Everyone at home thinks I'm being too controlling. My husband has talked to me multiple times, saying, Mom just loves to eat a few bites of baozi, it's no big deal, you're just making a mountain out of a molehill. My son has also gradually distanced himself from me, rejecting my attempts to show affection. You're such a bad mom, you won't let me eat KFC. I don't want you anymore, tell Dad to find me a pretty auntie instead. I thought it was just innocent child's talk and didn't take it to heart. Who would have thought my son would grow to resent me more and more, even crying and complaining, I don't want you as my mom, I want Sophia auntie to be my mom. Though I was somewhat hurt, we're both mothers, how could I possibly hold it against him? 20 years flew by, and under my careful diet planning and strict supervision, my mother-in-law's condition was kept under control without any complications whatsoever. Now it seems she's found an excuse to blame me for meddling, saying I've made the rest of her life tasteless and dull. My son also blames me for not giving him a happy childhood. He's never even tasted KFC or bubble tea. I seem to have become a sinner. Mother-in-law and daughter-in-law don't get along. My son isn't close to me, and all my hard work and effort seems to have been a joke. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back 20 years ago. Looking at my mother-in-law caught sneaking bites of my baozi and fried dough sticks, I didn't scold her but instead helped warm up 2 more sticks for her. Jane, I was so hungry I couldn't bear it anymore, so I hid one. My mother-in-law looked somewhat nervous, her hands clasped behind her back. As my consciousness returned, I stared at my suddenly 20-something years younger mother-in-law, stunned for a full minute before coming to my senses, seeing that I wasn't berating her as usual. My mother-in-law thought I was angry and explained awkwardly, just this once, I won't do it again. I laughed. Mom, you didn't eat enough for breakfast. I was thinking wrong, you're still young, and if you don't eat enough, your energy will suffer. There are still 2 pieces of youtiao in the fridge, I'll heat them up for you to eat. My mother-in-law was thrilled, but soon grew anxious again. Jane, didn't you say the doctor told me last time to eat less baozi and mantou? If I eat some youtiao now, will it cause any problems? I pretended to be angry. Since you think something might happen, then don't eat it. If I don't let you eat, you say life has no flavor. Now that I've given it to you to eat, you're worried about this and that, thinking I'm trying to harm you. My mother-in-law wouldn't let this opportunity slip by, apologizing to me earnestly. Jane, I was wrong just now. How could you possibly harm me? Could you help me warm up 2 pieces of youtiao, fried dough sticks? Before walking into the kitchen, I watched my mother-in-law devour the sweet pork dumpling in her hand in just a few bites, then lick her fingers. I pretended not to see anything. Go ahead and eat, I won't meddle or say another word about this for the rest of my life. I heated up 2 pieces of youtiao, placed them on a plate, and brought them to my mother-in-law. Jane, I'm in the mood for braised pork belly for lunch. Could you swing by the market? If they have fresh 3-layer pork, grab a piece. My mother-in-law took the plate and instructed, if the pig's trotters look good, buy a couple of them, stew them with soybeans, the flavor will be amazing. All right, I'll go take a look later. Seeing that I was unusually agreeable this morning, my mother-in-law cautiously brought up her request. Boiled sweet potatoes are bland and tasteless, so I won't eat them for lunch today. I'll have white rice with you all instead. I didn't argue and nodded in agreement. Mom, you're right, this braised pork belly just isn't the same without steamed rice. I changed my clothes and when I got to the door, my mother-in-law was holding half a fried dough stick she'd been eating. Jane, if you happen to see someone selling dumpling wrappers, get 150, we'll make dumplings for dinner. I chuckled to myself, more braised pork belly, steamed rice, and now dumplings. 3 hearty meals a day, as if I'm worried my blood sugar won't rise high enough. I smiled and agreed. Once I got out of the residential complex, instead of walking to the market as I usually do, I took out my phone and called a taxi. Riding in the car was not only cooler, but also saved time. What would have been nearly an hour's walk took just over 10 minutes. After getting out of the car, the driver asked for a good review, since I rarely use ride-hailing apps. This ride gave me a 5 yuan coupon. The vegetable market was bustling with activity. I headed straight to the meat and egg section, specifically picking out some premium pork belly with a good fat-to-lean ratio, and weighed out 3 gene, about 1.5 kilograms. I bought 2 pig's feet, and after paying, I asked the vendor to set aside 3 gene of pork belly for me for tomorrow morning. All right, honey, I'll set aside 3 gene of pork belly for you tomorrow morning, but I can only hold it until noon. If you don't come by 12, I'll sell it to someone else. I'm a regular customer of the boss, so he helped me pack the meat and asked curiously, girl, you usually only buy lean meat. Got guests coming over today. My mother-in-law and the kids love braised pork. I used to not buy it because I didn't know how to cook it, but I've learned recently. The boss was impressed and praised. What a filial daughter-in-law these days. There aren't many people with such a good heart like you. By the way, let me braise these pig's trotters for you. Do you need help cutting them into smaller pieces? I noticed that 2 or 3 new stalls had popped up near the meat vendor. It seems the boss is feeling the competitive pressure. Usually, apart from having mincemeat processed and ground, there were no other services offered. Now that we have braised pork, we can't miss out on the big plate chicken. After making a round, we just happened to run into someone selling free-range chickens. Free-range chicken is very nourishing, especially this old hen that's supposedly been raised for 4 or 5 years. It's the cream of the crop. With chicken and pork bought, we naturally can't do without dumpling wrappers. Let's get a gene of Shanghai greens. And those wild Christian carp look good. Let's take 4 small ones. Seeing we're about done, we head out of the market and bump into someone selling watermelons. The watermelon has a thin rind and is full of juicy sweetness. My family loves to eat them, but considering my mother-in-law's health, I haven't bought any for home in several years. This would make life tasteless. Satisfaction is a must. After all, I am a good daughter-in-law. Picked a big watermelon, hailed a taxi at the intersection, and got home quickly. Just as I got home, my mother-in-law came over to rummage through the bags, poked at the pork belly, and her eyes lit up. She praised, "This pork belly is nicely bought. It'll make some fragrant braised pork for sure." Perhaps pleased with the ingredients, my mother-in-law unusually helped me out in the kitchen. Everyone was satisfied with lunch, especially that plate of marbled pork belly glistening with sauce. Next was that bowl of clear braised free-range chicken soup. When my mother-in-law learned the hen had been raised for 4 or 5 years, she drank 2 full bowls of the soup. The husband asked curiously, "Jane, what's the occasion? Why the sudden craving for braised pork belly and homemade chicken soup?" I ladled him a bowl of chicken soup and said, "It's because Mom said eating bland food all the time has no flavor. I thought I'd cook something every now and then. As long as Mom eats a little less, it'll be fine. You and the kids need to nourish your bodies well too." The husband nodded in agreement. "You've finally come to your senses. The way you've been going on about what you can't eat and what you can't eat all day long. Forget about your mother-in-law. Even I'm starting to feel worn out by it." The son was eating with grease dripping from his mouth, stuffing pieces of braised pork into his mouth one after another. After the meal, just as I was about to clear the dishes, my mother-in-law started shouting that she wanted to eat watermelon to cool off from the heat. An apple after a meal keeps the doctor away. Eating some watermelon after dinner will cool you down a bit. I can't be bothered to remind her that eating watermelon, a high-sugar fruit, right after finishing rice will cause her blood sugar to spike. In my past life, no matter how much I said, nothing good came of it. It's even less likely now. I helped cut the watermelon into slices, and my mother-in-law ate 3 pieces by herself. This watermelon is juicy and crisp, with just the right sweetness. "Jane, you picked a good one today," she instructed. "Put the other half in the fridge to chill. It'll taste better when we cut it open later." I replied casually, "If Mom likes it, I'll buy more tomorrow." For dinner, we had pork and cabbage dumplings. My mother-in-law ate 2 bowls by herself, only reluctantly putting down her chopsticks when she was too full to continue. After the meal, the whole family acted as if they didn't see the dirty dishes left on the table. It's rare for the mother-in-law to go for a walk downstairs in the neighborhood with the father-in-law. The 6-year-old son was lying on the couch watching cartoons on the tablet. I couldn't help but say, "Dylan, don't get so close, or you'll become nearsighted later." The 6-year-old son pouted and replied impatiently, "I know, Mom." My husband was playing with his phone nearby, and upon hearing this, he looked up and said, "Dylan, come on, Dad will take you to the supermarket." "Oh, we're going to the supermarket." My son happily sat up from the couch and casually threw his tablet onto it, hugging my husband's leg. I knew Daddy is the best. "Daddy, can I buy a toy car later?" Before leaving, my husband greeted me and asked if I needed him to bring any kitchen seasonings. I shook my head. Bang. The door slammed shut, leaving only the table full of mess and me behind. I always seem to be the villain in this family, meddling in everything and making everyone feel annoyed. Meanwhile, my husband has always been the good son in his parents' eyes and the good father in our son's eyes. Worried that our son's frequent tablet use and TV watching might damage his eyesight, I always strictly regulate his screen time, but every time after I scold him and go to the kitchen to clean up, my husband always takes him out shopping to make it up to him, over time. My son naturally grew to dislike me, this meddlesome mother who constantly nagged about what he couldn't or shouldn't do. Instead, he preferred to rely on his father, feeling that his father understood him, loved him, and cared for him. As I quickly cleared the dishes, I pondered how to escape this marriage and leave behind this family. If given another chance, I would never let my life be consumed by these people again, just to accompany my son's growth. I quit my job after getting pregnant and became a housewife. Now my son is in the senior class at kindergarten, and I haven't gone out to work for over 6 years. In my previous life, after my son started elementary school, I had suggested finding a job to help with household expenses, but when my husband learned about this idea, he immediately accused me of being selfish without hesitation. Jane, you've really disappointed me. You know perfectly well that Mom isn't in good health. And our father has trouble walking. Our child is about to start elementary school and needs help with homework. What's more important, your career or our child's development? For the sake of the children and the family, I chose to compromise and sacrifice myself in my past life. Not a word about job hunting, focusing entirely on tutoring the children and taking care of the 2 elderly parents at home. This care has lasted for decades. Wait until the child successfully got into a prestigious university under her supervision and found a good job in a big city. Under my light diet and strict supervision, my mother-in-law goes downstairs for a stroll every now and then, and her blood sugar is kept within a reasonable range. The disease mentioned on the internet never appeared at all. You could say that apart from eating bland food, I haven't suffered much. Who would have thought that in her old age? My mother-in-law would cause such a commotion, saying I deliberately harmed her. I knew it. This old woman is a burden to everyone. You keep saying you're doing what's best for me, but you won't even let me eat braised pork. You won't even let her eat buns, steamed buns, dumplings, noodles, or rice noodles. When cooking, you only use salt and MSG, no other seasonings at all. For over 20 years, I haven't been able to eat hot pot even once. I've completely forgotten what hot pot tastes like. I think you're just blindly following the doctor's advice. That doctor is just out to make money, exaggerating things to make them sound worse than they are. All this talk about high blood sugar, gout, and high cholesterol is nonsense. I've missed out on 20 years of delicious food for nothing. I turned to my husband nearby for help, but instead of supporting me, he just muddied the waters with a non-committal remark. Mom, Jane is only thinking of your well-being, but I can't stand eating boiled vegetables and tomato scrambled eggs every day either. The mother-in-law shot me a smug glance when she saw her son speaking up for her. Who can say otherwise? Even a body made of iron would fall ill after eating this way for 20 years. You'd get sick even if you weren't sick before. I've been feeling a bit worn out lately. It must be malnutrition. Thinking about these unpleasant memories, I couldn't help but feel a knot in my chest. After washing the dishes and utensils, I started registering on the county's job recruitment website and filtering through positions suitable for me. After searching for half the day, I finally found a few jobs that barely matched my qualifications. The recruitment website was filled exclusively with supermarket procurement staff or restaurant service workers. It's not that I'm being overly picky, but the pay for these positions is quite low, less than $2,000. It's all about time and experience. Only after working for a long time might your salary see a modest increase. I quickly submitted my resume online, and soon the page showed that my information had been downloaded and viewed by the company. About 5 minutes later, I received 2 text messages. They asked me to come for an interview at their company tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m., with a final decision on hiring to be made after the assessment. These 2 companies operate in similar industries. One is a well-known private training institution in the county with a good reputation. The other is a newly opened tutoring center that primarily serves elementary school students. Every afternoon after school, the center's teachers are responsible for picking up the children and providing after-school tutoring. After noting down the text message information, I casually deleted the interview text. After following an online fitness blogger for about half an hour of exercise, my mother-in-law and father-in-law finally hummed their way into the house. My mother-in-law glanced at me, frowned, and instinctively exclaimed, "Oh my, Jane. You're almost 30 and still flailing your arms and legs around like this. Don't you feel any shame?" As she spoke, she stepped forward and tugged at my sports shorts dismissively. "What kind of clothes are these? Exposing arms and legs like this? Those pale white thighs? TSK. This is truly a disgrace to our family name. Ryan's family. I'm completely humiliated by you." Father-in-law coughed heavily several times, shot me a deeply disapproving glance, and then gave mother-in-law a meaningful look. She finally walked past me, turned on the TV, and sat down on the sofa to watch, but her eyes kept glancing toward the corner behind her. I laughed and pulled her hand away. "Mom, why don't you just shout a bit louder so the neighbors can come take a look at you? Our 1,000-year antique, our million-year living fossil, if wearing sporty shorts and a t-shirt brings shame to the family." Then when I wear a short skirt and hit the streets another day, won't the Ryan's family be utterly ruined? My mother-in-law looked at me in surprise, then the next second seemed to be so angry she was gasping, clutching her chest and bending over. What a tragedy, my daughter-in-law is going to kill me with her anger. Is there no justice in this world? The father-in-law immediately dropped the remote control and rushed over to support his wife, Jane. You've always seemed so sensible in the past. Are you out of your mind today? Your mom only said a few words to you, and look how breathless she is with anger. His tone was quite displeased. Then he helped his wife sit down on the sofa. I shot back, "Oh come on, Dad, from what you're saying, Mom's health must be pretty bad. Getting so winded from just a few jokes, could it be asthma?" Pretending to be concerned. "Maybe we should still go to the hospital for a checkup, just in case I'm right." The moment she heard this, the mother-in-law forgot all about pretending to be sick and sprang up from the sofa. "Go to hell, what asthma nonsense, your mother's the one with asthma." I laughed. "My mother-in-law is just like you, so it was you who passed gas. No wonder you're speaking so rudely." The mother-in-law turned her head to look at her husband nearby. "Old man, this is terrible. This daughter-in-law is deliberately trying to anger me to death." As she spoke, she grabbed her phone and started searching for her son's number, preparing to tattle. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her nonsense, so this was all she had. In my past life, I endured my mother-in-law's harassment only for the sake of my own husband. Now I'm not happy anymore. They think they can control me through my husband, but what they don't know is that I don't even want their son anymore. I took my phone and went back to the bedroom, locked the door from the inside, quickly gathered my ID card and other important documents, packed 2 sets of clothes for changing, and only then did I open the door again. In the living room, the mother-in-law was on the phone, frothing at the mouth as she spoke to her son about my wickedness. "Ryan, your wife is getting more and more outrageous. You'd better get her under control." My father-in-law was nowhere to be seen, probably went to play mahjong. Seeing me pass by the living room, my mother-in-law deliberately raised her voice, but her eyes kept glancing at me from time to time. It was obvious she was trying to intimidate me. I pretended not to notice, walked out the door, and only hailed a taxi after leaving the community gate, heading to a hotel near tomorrow's interview location. I booked a single room, took a shower in the bathroom, connected to the hotel's Wi-Fi, downloaded several money-making apps, and prepared to take advantage of some deals. With these apps, you can easily earn around 10 to 20 yuan in 3 to 5 days just by watching videos. Plus, you get cashback in coins when shopping, along with coupons. They recently launched a weekend coin-saving event. Save up enough coins and you can exchange them for 88 yuan. The lucky ones might even win 188 or 288. After watching videos for about 10 minutes, setting an alarm, and putting my phone in airplane mode, I could finally sleep peacefully. No need to cater to the whole family's morning routine. I lay down and quickly fell asleep. What she didn't know was that at that very moment, several members of Ryan's family were waiting for her return, ready to conduct a 3-way interrogation. Ryan first took his son to KFC, where the two of them enjoyed a big meal, and then he took his son shopping at the supermarket. Just as they were having a great time shopping and buying a pile of toys and drinks, he received a call from his mother. As soon as he heard that his wife had actually made his mother so angry that she was experiencing chest tightness and shortness of breath, yet still had the nerve to go out. At first, he didn't believe it. "Mom, did you say something? Jane has a gentle personality. Since she married into the Ryan's family, she's never had a single argument with anyone." From the other end of the phone came sobbing and wailing. "You doubt me too? What kind of karma is this, that even my own flesh and blood sides with outsiders? I can't go on living." Ryan felt embarrassed by the strange looks from other customers around the supermarket. He hastily dropped a quick "I'm not available right now, we'll talk when I get back," and hung up the phone abruptly. His good mood from grocery shopping had completely vanished. He took his son to the checkout counter to pay, and once they left the supermarket, his son started demanding bubble tea again. It just so happened that the milk tea shop his son loved had become extremely popular, with customers queuing from the entrance all the way outside. By the time it was finally his turn, nearly half an hour had passed. Almost as if possessed by some unseen force, he ordered 4 cups of milk tea, carrying the drinks in hand. He then hurried home with his son. "Dad, you're so nice. Unlike Mom, she never lets me have milk tea." His son's innocent words satisfied Ryan's vanity, and he couldn't be bothered to explain anything for his wife and son, who lets his wife nag about everything all day long. She nags him for hours just for smoking a little at home, and keeps forwarding videos about the dangers of smoking to him, forcing him to hide downstairs in the residential complex or smoke at work. Thinking of this, he felt somewhat proud and patted his son's head. "This is a secret between Daddy and you. Don't let it slip when you get home." Seemingly with good intentions, he said, "Your mom, if she finds out I bought you bubble tea, our 2 father and son tonight will probably be kicked out to sleep on the sofa." As they approached the entrance of the residential complex, the son took several big sips of his bubble tea. Looking at the remaining taro balls and pearls in the cup, he whispered reluctantly to his father beside him, "Dad, can you give me a few more minutes to finish the taro balls?" Ryan, who had always doted on his son, agreed immediately. "Then hurry up, and remember to wipe your mouth after eating." The two of them were delayed a few minutes at the entrance of their residential complex before finally getting home, and as soon as they entered, they saw his mother sitting angrily on the sofa. "Son, you're finally back. Your wife is unbelievable. At home she wears those clothes that show her butt crack, and when I said a few words about it, she talked back to me. She had a huge fight with me and ran off somewhere. You'd better give her a good talking to, this daughter-in-law of yours. If you don't discipline her now, she'll be shitting all over your mother's head before you know it." Ryan, being naturally filial, frowned upon hearing this. "Mom, I'll call right now to ask where she is." His mother, upon hearing this, was far from pleased. "What's the point of making a phone call? It's just a waste of money. I know Jane's temperament. She's definitely just afraid of being scolded and has gone out to avoid it. We can just wait for her at home. Women these days just need to be properly trained. I thought she was such a filial girl at first, but look how many years she's been in this family and she's already showing her true colors." The next morning, I opened my eyes when the phone alarm rang for the second time, turned off the alarm, and casually disabled airplane mode. After washing up and returning to the bedside, I picked up my phone and, as expected, saw dozens of text messages along with missed calls. A certain messaging app had received dozens of messages sent sporadically from midnight until 3 a.m., with increasingly impatient tones and attitudes, all from my husband. The final message even carried a threat that if I didn't reply, I shouldn't bother coming home. I promptly set the messages to default to silent mode with no notifications or disturbances. She also blocked her husband's and mother-in-law's phone numbers before heading downstairs to go for the interview. The first was a well-reputed private institution. The interviewer frowned as soon as he heard about my alma mater and work experience. She politely declined, saying, "I'm sorry, Ms. Jane, but you don't quite meet our company's requirements. Besides being married with children, your alma mater is just an ordinary second-tier university, and your major barely aligns with what we need. Moreover, having been a homemaker for so long, your knowledge and skills may no longer be suited to today's educational environment. Our company has considerable work pressure, so this might not be the right fit for you." It was clearly stated, and I didn't want to make too much of an excuse, so I left and headed to the second tutoring center, similar to a small dining table setup. On the way, she received a call from her son's homeroom teacher, Dylan's mom. "It's almost 9 o'clock now, but Dylan still hasn't arrived at school. Is he sick?" She gathered her emotions and said somewhat embarrassedly, "Teacher Jane, well, I had an argument with Dylan's dad last night and didn't stay home. My phone has also been blocked by him. What should I do now?" The teacher Jane on the other end of the phone was also stunned. Since the other party had already said so much, she could only respond, "Well, Dylan's mom, let me contact Dylan's dad." Then she hung up the phone. I was more than happy to add to my husband's troubles, and the frustration from my recent interview failure was completely wiped away. The tutoring center wasn't very big, located on the second floor. The interviewer was a kind-looking woman, a few years older than me. She asked me a few simple questions, learned that I hadn't worked for nearly 6 years, then asked me a question unrelated to the interview. "Your son is about to start school, so why the sudden urge to go back to work?" I gave a bitter smile and briefly explained my current situation. "I don't want to become the kind of person my son thinks lives off others and meddles too much. I want to find my own value through work." The boss seemed to think of something, patted my shoulder, and decided to keep me. After explaining the salary and benefits, "Starting today, you'll work here. The monthly base salary is 3,500 yuan, with a 600 yuan full attendance bonus, and performance bonuses based on student feedback. 2 meals are provided, but no accommodation." This salary package was already considered quite good in our small county town. Restaurant servers and cashiers only make 1,800 a month, and even with full attendance bonuses and various allowances, they barely earn over 2,000 a month. Unless you've been working here for several years, your salary might be slightly higher. The boss briefly explained the situation. "Including you, we only have 4 people on staff. We don't have many students here, only about 30. Since you're new, you'll start by tutoring 3rd grade Chinese and math. Don't be nervous. First, follow me to prepare lunch for the kids. After a few days of getting used to picking up and dropping off the children, you can go with Chloe to pick up the students." Perhaps because she had tasks at hand, washing and chopping vegetables, she didn't notice the passage of time. The lunch was quite substantial: cola braised chicken legs, Steamed eggs, stir-fried potato shreds, bean sprouts with meat, plus a bowl of tomato egg drop soup. After finishing up the work at hand, I transferred the cooked dishes into stainless steel containers. There were less than 30 minutes left before the children were dropped off. The boss called everyone over for lunch and took the opportunity to introduce me to the other two colleagues. After lunch, Chloe Liam went to the school gate to pick up the children from the daycare class. I finally had a moment to spare, opened my phone, and was greeted by over 10 calls and messages from unknown numbers, all filled with malice. Jane, get your butt home right now. Which woman is like you, neglecting your son, not making breakfast, and running around outside causing trouble? You've got guts. You blocked my number. Do you even want this family anymore? Why can't you just live peacefully instead of causing trouble? Several angry messages followed. My son was late for school this morning. Happy now. I was late for work too. You've turned this house into chaos. I unlocked my phone with fingerprint, blocked this number, and shielded the SMS. I just feel like I was blind to fall for such a person. It's been less than half a day and they've already pinned so many accusations on me, acting all high and mighty. Whoever wants to cater to them can go ahead and do it. I'm not planning to go back to that home. But working in this small county town isn't safe either. It's such a tiny place where you always run into acquaintances. I was just thinking of coming out to work and earn some money. Right now I'm thinking more about it, so I'll just do it for a few months and see how it goes. I was worried that one day I might run into my husband and he'd cause a scene at the daycare center, so while those two colleagues who pick up students were away, I went to talk to my boss and told her about my situation. I didn't expect her to suddenly give me a suggestion. Why don't you go to Yonge County? I have a friend running a daycare center there, and it's a beautiful place with simple, honest people, but I suggest you don't contact your parents for now. The older generation always tries to reconcile rather than encourage separation. Once you tell your parents where you are, your husband will find out too. You can go to Yunqing for a year first, to give both of you some time to think. Don't delete the threatening text messages from your husband for now. If he reports to the police and they come looking for you, that would just make things more complicated. If during this year you're away, he reaches out to you initiative and shows a good attitude, then you can consider whether to continue the relationship. But if he can't even wait a year for you, then it's better to just end the marriage. I have to say, the advice my boss gave me was really appealing. Yunxian is located in a small city in a southwestern province, a true backwater with no particularly famous tourism or well-known industries, but it's full of human warmth, has beautiful scenery, and is perfect for relaxation and leisure. As for marriage, after what happened in my past life, I have no hope left and plan to draft a divorce agreement to send over. I thanked my boss, returned to the hotel to check out, booked a train ticket to Yonge County for 2 p.m. and then took a taxi to the train station. As soon as I arrived at the train station, my mom called. I just pressed the answer button, then I heard my mother's furious voice on the other end of the phone. You little brat, where have you been, neglecting your own husband and child? Just now Ryan called me, and you've completely disgraced me. Get home right now. Did you hear me? I heard you cursed at your mother-in-law last night. You have no manners or respect as a younger person. If word gets out, people will think our family doesn't know how to raise girls. Your younger brother still hasn't found a wife. If your situation delays Brendan's marriage, I'll be the first to blame you. From start to finish, my mom was yelling the entire time, constantly blaming me for everything wrong, without asking me once where I was or whether I had eaten lunch. What she cared about was only that elusive reputation. At this moment, I was very grateful that I hadn't told her where I was. And certainly not about my plans for divorce. In my past life, every time I argued with my husband, it wasn't long before my mother would call to give me a good lecture. Stop making a scene. Which couple doesn't quarrel? Just bear with it. Besides, how could you bear to make Dylan grow up in a single-parent household? If you bring a stepmother into the picture, Dylan's life will become miserable. Look at your father and me. We've been bickering through most of our lives. This is fate, and we must accept it. Thinking of this, I felt short of breath. Why should I endure a lifetime for that ungrateful son? As for my mom and dad, they argue every 2 days and fight every 3 days. A few years ago, my dad had an affair with a woman outside, and my mom knew about it. She kept crying and complaining about how wrong she was in front of me, but when I stepped in to talk to my dad, she jumped out playing the good guy, accusing me of believing rumors and deliberately trying to break up the family. At that time, my dad slapped me hard. If it weren't for the fact that I was already married, he would have beaten me to death long ago. You bitch, you cuckolded me and ruined my reputation everywhere. How could I have raised such a disobedient brat? My mother's impatient voice came through the phone. All right, hurry back home. Don't wander around outside and embarrass me. Beep, beep. The phone was hung up, as usual. She finished speaking and hung up the phone on her own, only this time, I didn't try to reason with her like I used to. After years of living together, I've long since figured out her personality and have no expectations whatsoever. While waiting for the bus, a voice message from my mom popped up on the screen. I couldn't be bothered to respond, so I opened the app and blocked her, feeling that the world had finally quieted down. As I boarded the train to Yun County and watched the familiar scenery swiftly recede through the window, I felt surprisingly relaxed. Since getting married, I seemed to have lost myself, constantly revolving around work and family. After getting pregnant, I quit my job and took care of my in-laws and their family, busy looking after the children. Yet I became the idle woman in my mother-in-law's eyes, and the woman who doesn't care about her appearance or have ambitions in my husband's eyes. For the first time, I embarked on a journey alone, with no ties or worries, only endless emotions and anticipation for future life. The old-fashioned green train rattled and swayed as it headed to the next station. After 3 days and 2 nights of bumps and jolts, the train arrived at Yunqing Station. I grabbed my bag and followed the crowd off the train. Perhaps my luck was good. Just as I exited the train station, I encountered a bus heading to the Yunxian County Center. I took the bus and arrived at the Yunxian County Center. I first found a small roadside diner to eat, and during the meal, I used a messaging app to search for job openings in Yunxian. A public account popped up. It was a local account that contained very comprehensive information including Yunxian job listings, matchmaking, used cars, and house rentals and sales. I clicked through recent job postings, mostly for restaurant servers and supermarket cashiers, with a few tutoring center positions mixed in, but the pay was vaguely described and there were very few positions available. A call came in from an unknown number. Looks like it was from my hometown area code. I hesitated for a moment but chose not to answer. The messaging app had been constantly buzzing for several days before I arrived in Yun County. In the family group chat, my mom sent dozens of voice messages and it mentioned me, accusing me of my crimes. Seeing that I wasn't responding, it didn't take more than half a day before even my aunt, who rarely initiates messages in the group, posted a message in the group chat. From their accounts, I pieced together some recent events that had happened back home after I left. Jane, listen to your aunt's advice. Don't hold a grudge against your mother. She's had a tough time all these years. These past couple of days, your in-laws brought a bunch of people to your house to cause trouble. They beat up your parents, and when your uncle and I rushed over to break up the fight, we got hit a few times too. If you really care about your parents, go back to your husband's house early and stop causing trouble for your mother home all the time. If it weren't for the chat notifications, I would have forgotten to leave the family group. My paternal aunt and third aunt-in-law constantly post videos in the group about which children are unfilial to their elders and get hit by cars when they go out. Otherwise, they post videos about family reunions and how harmony is better than anything else, always acting in the name of caring for me and the family. They constantly meddle in other people's business and lecture others with a condescending attitude. Now that the time is right, I've withdrawn and blocked the family group chat. This unknown number is probably another well-meaning relative trying to pry into my affairs and persuade me to return to my in-laws' house to be their servant. I can't be bothered to indulge them anymore, so I've shortlisted a few companies I'm interested in and sent out some electronic resumes. I had just left the small restaurant, walked along the street, turned a corner, and found a small hotel that looked decent in terms of cleanliness and other aspects. The lady boss was playing on her phone. And upon learning I needed accommodation, she explained, a single room is 30 yuan per day, or 450 yuan per month if you rent it, with utilities charged separately. The price was much cheaper than back home, but I didn't make a decision right away. Boss, can you show me upstairs to check out the environment? The boss was a straightforward person, and upon hearing this, he took me upstairs and showed me the vacant rooms from the 3rd to the 6th floor. If you rent for 6 months, I can give you a discount on the rent, he offered. This place is near the supermarket, so it might be a bit noisy in the morning. The room is clean and simply decorated, equipped with a table and chairs, plus a round table for dining. When you open the window, you can see the street below. Outside the room, there's a modest living area with some green plants and electrical outlets. You can come here to cook. My little inn usually doesn't have many people renting monthly. Once you rent the space, it'll be for your personal use only. After looking around, I was generally satisfied, so I rented it for 3 months. After completing the check-in procedures, I returned to my room. Before I knew it, I had been living in Yun City for half a year. I worked at a trusteeship center, and the number of students I tutored gradually increased from the initial 2 to 6 now. During this time, through my phone, I was exposed to a new field, online literature. Almost by fate, I registered an account and adapted my experiences into a novel, which I published on a website. I don't know which day it was when I opened the comments section, but there were several new comments under my novel, 1, 2, until more and more comments flooded in, giving me encouragement as well as some advice. If what the author says is true, you can take out an online loan and put your husband's information as the guarantor, as husband and wife are one entity. If you can't repay the debt, the loan sharks will naturally call him. If he can't afford to delay, he'll divorce you proactively, and you can still make him shoulder half the debt. But judging from the author's article, she's a kind woman, so I suggest following proper procedures. Less than half an hour after this comment appeared, other readers started attacking Xiaomian, saying, "What kind of terrible advice is this? Just reading a novel and acting like you're the savior of the world. Look at how full of yourself you are." To protect this enthusiastic reader, I have hidden his comment. In the past 6 months in Yin City, I got a new phone number, and my contacts list only includes colleagues and the hotel owner. I didn't cancel my previous phone number either. I kept it in my old phone, set it to airplane mode, and occasionally turn off airplane mode to check messages, just as a spice for life. Through my old phone, I've intermittently learned about the situations at both my parents' and in-laws' homes during the 6 months since I left. Husband Ryan went from sending dozens of messages daily with long essays at the beginning to now sending just a message every 10 days or so. The frequency of his messages keeps decreasing, and the texts are getting shorter and shorter. They're almost all pictures now, either our son getting hurt and falling down, mixed with a few photos of my mother-in-law being hospitalized. The most recent text message was still half a month ago. "Honey, where are you? Please come back soon. In the 6 months since you left, both our son and I have missed you so much. My mom twisted her ankle recently while picking up and dropping off Dylan. It's been half a month and it's still not healed. If you were here, that would be great. On my way home from work today, I passed by a flower shop and remembered you like roses, so I bought a bouquet. When I got home and put them in a vase, I realized you weren't there. I have to admit, I'm somewhat impressed by his acting skills. If he misses me, it's probably because he's lacking that housekeeper who does the laundry, cooks, and shuttles the kids around for free." Still no reply. I guess the motivation to push him toward divorce isn't strong enough yet. Set the old phone to airplane mode. Planning for my future. Save some money and travel to places you've always wanted to visit. The after-school program runs from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. with fixed working hours and manageable stress levels. Perhaps it's because I'm quite patient when tutoring children and good at guiding students to complete their homework proactively and efficiently. I received consistent praise from parents, with some even using connections to approach the program owner to have their children tutored by me. Though the owner declined, the after-school program operates on the principle of responsibility with small class management, and I am in charge of first-grade students. In tutoring and communicating with students, I have also found great joy. I take delight in every bit of progress my students make, and through my interactions with them, I gradually help them discover learning and problem-solving methods that suit them. I've made 1 or 2 friends, and we meet up in the afternoon to go shopping and drink bubble tea, mostly writing in the rental apartment, occasionally contributing essays and poems to public accounts. When life gets busy, boredom fades away. After a year and a half, perhaps unable to bear it anymore, when I opened my old phone, it lagged for a long time, flooded with messages and sparse text. In the past 6 months, my husband initiated the divorce, and his tone became increasingly impatient. "I want a divorce. I can't live like this anymore. I'm playing both mother and father, and I still have to take care of the 2 elderly parents at home." On a certain messaging app, a cousin sister who's fairly close to me once sent me a message about her situation at her in-laws' house. "Jane, my dear younger sister, how have you been lately? Since you left nearly 2 years ago, Auntie's family seems to have had nothing but bad luck. In my opinion, they've only themselves to blame. Your younger brother got a girl pregnant, and her family is demanding 400,000 yuan in bride price before they'll agree to the marriage. Your mother calculated it and wants to get a daughter-in-law without paying a single cent in bride price. The other party had an abortion and sent the baby to your house. Your father was so furious that he gathered a bunch of his mahjong buddies and beat up the girl's parents. The whole thing blew up into a huge scandal. Your parents are desperately trying to get news of you. This news was already from 6 months ago." Looking at the words, I could feel my cousin's kindness. Perhaps because I was hurt by my parents and husband, I viewed everyone around me as a bad person. Thinking about it now, perhaps I was too pessimistic. I should go back to my hometown for a visit, I think. Before leaving, I told my landlord I'd be back within half a month at most, resigned from my job at the daycare center, and set off on the road back to my hometown. Upon arriving at the place where I had lived for decades, I immediately found a lawyer to consult about divorce-related matters, and after receiving a clear response from them, afraid of being retaliated against by my husband, I hired 2 burly Intimidating-looking men who seemed like they had gained connections from a local job website to protect me for one day, before finally using my old phone to call my husband's number. Ryan, I'm at the milk tea shop right across from the Civil Affairs Bureau. If you want a divorce, come to the bureau within an hour. Without waiting for his reaction, she hung up the phone. About half an hour later, a haggard, somewhat greasy-looking man arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau with a child in tow. Muttering curses under his breath, from time to time, he glanced toward the milk tea shop. Sure enough, this man was my husband. As soon as he entered the milk tea shop, he looked around. Upon seeing me, he yanked the child hard and strode quickly toward me. You fucking bitch. It's been almost 3 years since you left. I ought to kill you. How dare you show up in front of me? Before he even reached me, he was spewing obscenities and charging at me with his fists clenched. You big man. Keep your hands to yourself. The 2 men I'd hired held him back, their tone less than pleasant. My husband looked at me as if he'd suffered some great humiliation, his eyes full of venom. Jane, well done. 3 years apart and you found yourself 2 lovers. I won't divorce you now. I'll drag this out until you're dead. I raised my hand and slapped him, furious. Stop being unreasonable. If it weren't for your parents constantly picking faults with everything I do, complaining that my cooking is bland or calling me a freeloader, and your whole family inciting the kids to deliberately go against me, I wouldn't have to be the villain for disciplining the children. You just said it yourself. We've been separated for 3 years. There's no love left between us. Fine, don't divorce me. I don't care as long as you're okay with being cuckolded. I can move back to your house, too. As long as your family trusts me to cook. Perhaps my expression was too vicious, because my husband flinched and didn't forget to signal our son with a glance. Fine, we can get divorced, but the kids stay with me. My son rushed over and hugged me, crying insistently, Mom, where did you go? I missed you so much. I don't want to leave you. I nearly gagged at his dirty clothes, but remembering what happened in my past life, I pushed him away coldly, thinking of something. I changed to a sad yet deliberately strong expression and coaxed, Mommy and Daddy can't live together anymore. Daddy doesn't want you to be raised by me, but Mommy will come back to see you whenever I can. Upon hearing this, my son started crying in protest, while my husband, unusually calm, said, I've never seen such a heartless woman. If you don't want the kids, I'll take them. You want a divorce? Fine, I'll grant you that. I was more than happy to oblige. And accompanied by 2 security personnel I had hired, I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to obtain the divorce certificate. As I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, holding that red divorce certificate in my hand, I finally felt truly free to lower my ex-husband's guard. I even pretended to be reluctant, looking back at my son 3 times with each step, and only laughed out loud after they had left. For safety reasons, I didn't want to stay in that place. After paying the wages to the 2 security guards I had hired, I took a taxi directly to the train station and bought a high-speed train ticket to Guisien that departed 45 minutes later. That phone card along with the old phone was completely abandoned. I never paid any more phone bills, and it was disconnected after a few months. In Guisien, I set up a small stall selling fried potatoes and fried rice. Business was good. The old city and past events seemed to become just a passing breeze. Once hurtful but now gone in an instant. My novels have never really taken off, and my income fluctuates. I've made a few friends online, and sometimes I indulge myself by closing my stall to travel around. Story 2, the 9-tailed fox sister caught the prince's eye, and he sought to form a beast-kin pact with her, but I discovered a spectral woman clinging to the handsome prince, her crimson maw hungrily draining my sister's life essence. Watching my sister's weakening form, I shattered the contract with all my might, shielding her with young energy as we fled. Yet afterward, she accused me of meddling, claimed I'd destroyed their sacred bond and ruined their love. Seizing my moment of exhaustion, she severed my fox tail and shoved me off the cliff, her violet eyes gleaming with triumph. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day my elder sister swore her covenant with the prince. Miri, mark my words. If you dare interrupt my covenant ceremony with His Highness, I'll kill you. Inside the carriage, my sister Adira gripped my arm while her foxtail whipped across my face. Pain jolted me awake, my face drained of color, the sensation of shattered bones still vivid. Both Adira and I were beast folk, dwelling year-round in mountain forests with little human contact. Returning from the capital one day, she confessed the human prince had fallen for her and proposed a bonding ceremony, invited to the royal manor. I discovered the prince's impure motives. His designs threatened Adira's very life. 1. As Adira grew weaker by the minute, I tore up our contract and single-handedly held off the prince's guards, fighting our way out of that den of vipers. Just as safety was within reach, she knocked my exhausted self unconscious and severed all 9 of my tails. She stomped madly on my desperate fingers clinging to the cliff edge, cackling, "You'll never ruin my love with the prince or strip me of my glorious position as his consort." Had the prince and I not schemed together? Killing you might have been impossible. You've always envied everything about me since childhood, pretending to care while scheming against me. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Drop dead. With you gone, no one will stand between me and my prince. So in her eyes, every word I ever spoke to her was just deceitful manipulation, all to destroy her happiness. She believes I covet her love. Unaware that my yin-yang vision reveals horrors invisible to ordinary eyes, a vile ghost clings to that prince. Draining the life essence from all around him, the entire manor has become a den of the living dead. Prince Silas only formed a bond with Adira to exploit her dominant constitution. For years I've drained my yang energy to shield her from malevolent spirits, keeping her safe all this time, yet she's never trusted me. Though twins born of the same mother, my yang to her the demon couldn't touch me. So it made Silas plot my death. Who would have thought I'd survive the prince's assassins? Only to be killed by my own sister. I'll take this nine-tailed fox back to Eva stole for his highness. He'll surely love me more. In despair, I plunged into the bottomless abyss, my body shattered beyond recognition. All those years clinging to each other for survival were a mistake, a terrible, terrible mistake. If given another chance, I swear I'll never protect her again, nor lay down my life for her. The carriage halted before Prince Silas Manor, and I turned to speak to Adira. I'll consent to your marriage pact with His Highness, you needn't worry. Adira's expression froze momentarily before dawning comprehension. Stop pretending, Miri. I know this stings. I'm betrothed to the royal prince now, soon to be his noble consort, while you'll remain nothing but a lowly beastkin, forever beneath my station. What good is being a pure-blooded nine-tailed fox, still inferior to humans? She repeated these cruel words countless times. The social divide between humans and beastkin was vast. To improve their lives, many beastfolk desperately seek bonding contracts with humans. Just securing such a pact means breaking through class barriers. Adira's bond with the prince propelled her to new heights, instantly transforming her social standing. But I've never believed beastfolk are inferior beings who must rely on humans for survival. When she hurled insults at me, I simply chalked it up to lovesick madness. After all, we're sisters by blood. If I don't protect her, who will? Only through death did I realize no blood ties can make a devil in human skin offer genuine love. Since she's so enamored with mortal luxuries and so convinced of her love, I'll step aside. May she get what she desires, whether it proves to be honey or hellfire, that's no longer my concern. Oh, Your Highness, her tone suddenly brightened as she skipped down from the carriage. Prince Silas caught her in an adoring embrace, his eyes brimming with tenderness. Careful now, Adira, don't trip. His gaze shifted playfully. So this must be Mire. Silas possessed striking features and a towering frame, his noble bearing accentuated by exquisite robes. His back was slightly hunched, with his right shoulder habitually drooping. I raised an eyebrow as a female ghost clung to him, grinning excitedly while drooling at Adira. She suddenly turned to look at me, then shrank back. A flicker of disappointment crossed Silas's face. Adira, who had been watching closely, mistakenly thought Silas was disappointed with my appearance and shot me a smug glance, as if saying, "See, the prince only has eyes for me, that fool only has men on her mind." I pondered carefully. Silas must have realized my intensely young constitution makes me useless as nourishment for female spirits. Silas quickly composed himself and looked at me solemnly. Sister Miri, I sincerely wish to form a bond with Adira. I'll make her my princess consort and love her all my life. I beg for your approval. Adira buried her blushing face in his embrace, utterly blissful. How laughable. It wasn't Miri he truly loved. That female specter was likely his real beloved, too. He'd sacrifice hundreds of lives just to keep that vengeful spirit alive. Before I even stepped into the royal manor, I could feel the oppressive resentment hanging in the air. And Adira would soon become one of them. Adira shot me a displeased glare, so I quickly put on a cheerful smile and said earnestly, I agree, of course I agree. If elder sister is willing, how could I possibly object? The prince is such a refined gentleman, this marriage alliance would be elder sister's great fortune. Why wait for an auspicious date when we have today? Shall we proceed with the ceremony tomorrow? Once the covenant is forged, their lives become intertwined, sharing even their vital essence. For that female specter, feasting to her fill is as easy as snapping her fingers. Without my yang energy shielding her, Adira will endure daily gnawing agony until her flesh rots and her life force dissipates. When the full moon rises, the vengeful spirit will slip into her skin and be reborn. No matter how heartbroken she is, I won't protect her anymore. Silas arranged a side chamber for me. I'd barely closed my eyes when Adira barged in. That incessant tail swishing behind her was downright irritating. My head is killing me. Do something about it now. She smacked me in irritation, but I was too exhausted to bother with her. I already approved your bond with Silas. Stop pestering me. Doesn't Silas dote on you? Go bother him instead. Adira glared at me darkly before shouting in my face, "So quick to show your true colors. I knew you've always been jealous of me, can't stand to see me thrive. With your selfishness and laziness, no wonder no human would ever choose to bond with you. You'll remain a lowly nine-tailed fox your whole life. Get up and fix this now. Are you trying to kill me with pain?" I irritably shook off her hand and sprang up, sleep deprivation fueling my temper. "After all my care and the money I've earned for us, you dare call me lazy and gluttonous? If you truly think I have ulterior motives, let's end this decade-long relationship and spare me your constant nagging." Meeting her disbelieving gaze, I spoke calmly, "Since you're marrying into the human clan tomorrow, you'll be their lady now. As humans say, marry a chicken, follow the chicken, marry a dog, follow the dog. Go to Silas then. Consider us through." Adira looked as if she'd been slapped, her face turning ashen while the fur on her tail stood on end. Having relied on each other since childhood, she grew accustomed to my patience and gentleness, taking everything for granted while constantly finding fault with me. She'd always say, "How did I end up with such a hopeless younger sister?" In her eyes, not rushing to form a contract with humans was the epitome of failure. She was utterly convinced. Completely oblivious to how terrifying it is to surrender one's fate to another's hands. "I see you're just bitter about my betrothal to the prince, spouting nonsense out of spite. 3. You want me to call off the royal engagement and become a lowly beastkin like you, don't you?" As Adira consoled herself, my casual glance revealed why she'd sought me out tonight. The moment I was reborn, I withdrew the young energy that had been shielding her. The manor teemed with spirits, and her lean constitution made her the perfect vessel for these creatures. Before long, they clustered around her in swarms, clawing at her flesh. Deprived of my young energy, she couldn't even endure such minor torments. But why would I ever help her again? Once I become the princess consort, I might throw you some scraps, you ignorant fool. If you don't want to end up destitute, start thinking of solutions now. My head is killing me. Oh really? I picked my ear and stood up. "What exactly can you offer me?" she sneered. "The entire royal estate will be mine soon. I'll have everything I desire. As for you," she rolled her eyes, "whatever I give you would be better than what you've got now. Besides, you don't deserve finer treasures anyway." I nearly laughed in bitter amusement. After all these years of protecting her, I never expected anything in return. Just having each other's company and mutual care was enough to satisfy me, yet deep down, she'd always looked down on me, considering me lowly and worthless. Not only did she constantly belittle me, but she also shamelessly mocked my sincerity. I grabbed her by the tail and flung her out the door. "If I'm so unworthy of your favor, go find someone else to be your sister. I refuse to acknowledge such a shameless sibling like you. Get the hell out of my sight." Outside, I saw malevolent spirits coiling around her, gnawing at her life force as she frantically pounded on the door, thrashing her tail in agony. "Miri, I'll kill you. I'll have the prince execute you." I couldn't care less, no matter what she says. It leaves me completely unfazed. If Miriam's can torment her this much, how will she endure the ravenous wraith after the pact? A smirk curled my lips, brimming with dark satisfaction. As for Silas, let him come if he dares. I'll gladly return the favor. Late at night, I slipped away from the prince's manor and wandered through the bustling capital. In my previous life, upon arriving at the manor, I eagerly helped Silas capture over 80 malevolent spirits, sealing them in my magical vessel to restore vitality to the estate. I warned Silas that the female ghost on his shoulder had long lost her sanity, merely deceiving him through base desires. Once that specter finishes draining his life force, her ravenous hunger would make him the next meal. But Silas took it as a provocation and conspired with Adira to kill me the very next day. This time, we'll see who dies first. Before long, my footsteps faltered. I knocked on the remote courtyard's door, 3 sharp raps, before an elderly man slowly appeared, eyeing me with astonishment. "Young apprentice," I patted his shoulder and said, "Master, I've come to seek your guidance." The old man beamed with joy, producing a compass from his mouth. "Just as the divination foretold, the chosen one arrives this very night." I gave a wry smile and corrected him, "Not the chosen one. More like your worst nightmare. 12 years ago, I encountered a hamster beastkin while chopping firewood in the mountains. He noticed my rare duality, a body of extreme yang energy yet possessing yin-yang vision, and deemed me exceptionally gifted for spiritual cultivation. Since then, I've been apprenticing with him intermittently, mastering demon-subduing arts and honing my yin-yang sight to protect Adira." The old man strongly disapproved. "You're draining your life force to protect her. Yet my divination shows she's your natural opposite. This bond will bring you misfortune." Foolishly, I dismissed this as the first miscalculation from the infallible old seer. That single misjudgment cost me my life, my vision blurred with unshed tears, heart aching with unbearable bitterness. The old man simply smiled without a word, then produced a gleaming golden object from his mouth. "Since you're back, let's pull off something big." I looked down and realized it was none other than an imperial edict. At the stroke of midnight, mournful flute melodies would endlessly echo through the palace halls. None but His Majesty could hear it. With practiced eyes, I scanned the palace and discovered a blood-soaked female ghost beneath the dragon pedestal. Clutching a flute she played ceaselessly each midnight. The melody was a Jiangnan folk tune, telling of lovers torn apart by villains. The dying woman's lingering flute notes bound her spirit to this world. Stubbornly believing her flute-playing beloved still waited there. When I recounted this to the emperor, understanding dawned upon him instantly. Days later, Consort Hilda was banished to the cold palace, where the emperor found that very flute in her chambers. 3. The female ghost, having no lingering attachments, was purified after I sealed her in my demon-quelling pouch. The emperor said approvingly, "Your eminence truly possesses peerless talent. Stay for tomorrow's palace banquet to admire the moon with us." Gazing at the chests of imperial rewards before me, I accepted. The palace banquet was in full swing under the bright moon, with music and dancing filling the air. I saw Adira again after what felt like ages. Just half a month had passed, yet her eyes were sunken and she'd grown alarmingly thin, though her lavish robes concealed much. Those once proud nine-tails now stood like withered sticks, their luster gone, their appearance pitiful. The news of Prince Silas' betrothal to a beastfolk has caused quite a stir. Who'd have thought the royal family would produce such a romantic fool willing to marry one? They observed Adira with inscrutable smiles. Prince Silas' taste isn't all that impressive. I thought this beastfolk must be some breathtaking beauty to have him so smitten. Wasn't she supposed to be a nine-tailed fox? That tail looks suspiciously fake to me. This beastfolk looks even worse than the scullery maid in my household. Nonsense. That maid of yours is downright radiant. How could she possibly compare? Mockery swirled around Adira as her nails drew blood from her palms, yet she dared not retaliate against any of them. Other beastfolk would conceal their fur or tails upon entering the capital, but Adira, convinced of her uniqueness, made no such effort. I warned her, but she accused me of being jealous that her tail was more alluring. Little did she know how many despised beastfolk, while coveting their exquisite pelts for profit. Even Silas, who shared her bed every night, had a particular fondness for such trophies. The manor teemed with vengeful spirits. Most were beastfolk lured there by deception. I sipped my tea leisurely when Adira's gaze suddenly sharpened. She straightened her posture and stormed toward me. "Mire, didn't you swear to cut ties with me? How dare you shamelessly follow me into the palace? Have you no dignity left?" A vindictive smirk finally broke through her frustrated expression. "What's my status now? And what's yours? How dare a lowly beastkin like you set foot here? Guards, throw this wretched creature out." I casually brushed my sleeves and waved my hand before my nose. "Ugh, what's that awful stench? My lady, did you forget to rinse your mouth this morning?" I studied her once proud face. "Seems like you didn't wash your face either." Adira lashed out in fury, swinging her tail at me. I dodged slightly, and the eunuch attending His Majesty caught the brunt of her strike. "You uncouth orc, where are your manners?" He took a closer look. "Isn't this Prince Silas betrothed? I can't stand you orcs, utterly vulgar, can't even keep your tails in check. Mark my words, such insolence before the wedding will get you divorced soon enough." Humans looked down on orcs, and the emperor deemed them lowly creatures. Even the nobles who kept orcs as pets shared this disdain. Silas really went all out for that female ghost. The eunuch's voice suddenly shifted when he saw me. "Good heavens, Miri, what are you doing here? Didn't His Majesty summon you to sit by his side?" I smiled faintly. "I prefer quiet. This spot suits me better," he hastily explained. "I wasn't referring to you earlier. A beast folk of your standing is different from them. Do as you please. Even if you overturned this banquet, it'd be no matter." I watched the sycophantic eunuch without a word. Adira shrieked in disbelief nearby. "What nonsense are you spouting? She's just a lowly beast folk. Don't be fooled by her. Drive her out at once. What's all this commotion?" The commanding voice cut through Adira's tantrum as His Majesty approached. Recognizing me, his stern expression softened. "Miri," he said with a glance at the eunuch, "why hasn't our guest been properly seated? Such clamor is no way to treat distinguished company." The eunuch trembled as he bowed. "Your Majesty, this humble servant came seeking the master, only to be waylaid by—" The emperor finally noticed Adira, his expression darkening at the sight of her multiple tails. Adira stepped forward eagerly, simpering. "This humble Adira pays her respects to your Majesty." The emperor ignored her completely, turning instead to summon me. "Master, please join me at the high table. Let's not have our mood spoiled by riffraff." The nearby dignitaries burst into laughter, while the so-called riffraff Adira turned pale with rage, desperately trying to hide her tail. Suddenly her eyes lit up as she cried out, "My lord, your humble servant is here." Without thinking, she threw herself into Silas' arms, only for him to instantly push her away upon seeing the emperor. Adira's body was already drained of strength, And that single push sent her crumpling to the ground. Silas scrambled to help her up, hastily dragging her into a bow before the Emperor. "Silas, control your subordinate," the Emperor sneered. "Seems your mind isn't the only thing that's defective, your vision's failing too." Silas's fists clenched at the insult, but he could only bow his head lower in submission. "Your Majesty is absolutely right. I shall keep a close eye on her." "Let's go, Master." I walked past gracefully as Silas furtively raised his head, his gaze turning inscrutable when it met mine. I released the 1,000-mile listening device my master had given me, catching Silas's furious roar. "Didn't you say she was just a good-for-nothing? Since when did she catch His Majesty's fancy?" I don't know either. His Majesty must have been deceived by her. "My prince, you must believe me." "Enough," Silas cut her off. "She's now an honored guest of the palace. Stay away from her. That sister of yours is far more cunning than she appears." I eavesdropped with amusement. Who'd have thought their honeymoon phase would end within mere weeks? Silas probably dropped all pretense the moment their contract was sealed. My love-struck sister remains oblivious. The full moon will mark her final night. The vengeful spirit has nearly drained her life force. When the moon waxes full, it'll claim her body as its vessel. Silas, awaiting the ghost's resurrection, shall inherit only a mindless creature of slaughter. Does he truly believe murdering innocents will win him his beloved? It was wrong from the very beginning. The dead can never return, even if he leaves me be. I can't forget the agony of being torn apart in my past life. None of the masterminds shall escape my wrath. I presented the divination signs and addressed His Majesty solemnly. "Through today's divination, the direction of calamity has been revealed. Northwest, where countless restless souls linger. If this scourge remains unchecked, it may jeopardize the kingdom's fortune." The Emperor's gaze darkened as it fell upon Silas, who was already deep in his cups at the banquet. Silas' princely estate stood precisely in the northwestern quarter of the capital. I knew when to stop and didn't overstep. Taking my leave for the village right after the banquet, His Majesty was thoroughly pleased with me and rewarded me with several chests of gold and silver. By chance, my senior brother returned from his travels across the realms, and our master prepared a feast. Our humble courtyard brimmed with joy. Word of my reputation spread, and soon countless people came seeking my help to ward off evil spirits. Each day, a knock came at the door, but I froze when I saw who stood there. The 15th was just 2 days away, yet there a Dyer stood at my courtyard gate. She'd withered beyond recognition. I barely knew her, skin clung desperately to bone, her hair like brittle straw. All 9 tails vanished without trace. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mire, please save me." When she turned around, I realized her tail wasn't hidden, it had been severed. Blood gushed from her tailbone, the exposed flesh already festering. Looking at Silas's face, I realize appearances can be deceiving. He showed his true colors so early, not even worried a Dyer might leave. "Silas cut off my tail. That shameless bastard. He's trying to kill me. Ever since our pact, I've been in unbearable pain every day. He refuses to treat me and locked me in a secret chamber. There's a demon in that chamber. Miri, save me. It's going to devour me. I can't die like this." I pushed her away, feigning confusion. "How could that be? He adores you. Why would he ever do such a thing?" "Sister, you must be pulling my leg." "I've got it." A thought struck me. "You must have quarreled with Silas. What's the big deal? Lovers' spats always blow over. Go apologize before he really leaves you. You've probably been lazing about and upset him. Listen," I patted her shoulder, "wash His Highness' clothes and cook him a feast when you're back. He'll dote on you for sure." I babbled incoherently, throwing every insult she'd ever hurled at me right back in her face. Adira kept shaking her head, reduced to nothing but tears. I turned a blind eye, kicked her aside and slammed the door shut. An enraged scream came from behind the door. "Miri, you heartless wretch. How dare you abandon your own sister, after all I've done for you? I'm your elder sister." My face was ice cold with indifference. "Now you remember I'm your sister." "Too late, we cut ties long ago. Your problems aren't mine." Another roar came from outside the door. The master emerged from the inner room upon hearing the commotion. I quickly grabbed his arm. "Master, let me handle this. Don't trouble yourself." The old man shook me off with a snort and flung the door open violently. Adira face planted hard, but as she scrambled up to charge inside, the old man's compass smacked her forehead with a thunderous crack. "Get the hell out of here. If you disturb Mire again, I'll exorcise you for good." The master patted his demon pouch, where countless subdued creatures howled in agony. Adira immediately wet herself in terror and scrambled away on all fours. This scene felt hauntingly familiar. In my past life, my master avenged me in exactly this manner. When the old man learned of my death and rushed to the royal manor, he found it seething with vengeful spirits. Ecstatic Silas still clutched my 9-tailed fox, while Adira had long been drained of essence and flesh. Leaving only a hollowed-out husk, Silas gazed passionately at the female specter before him, trembling with excitement. "Fiona, I can bring you back now. We'll be reunited any moment." The ghostly woman smiled tenderly before plunging with a thud into Adira's desiccated corpse. Gradually, the corpse began to swell, regenerating flesh and blood. "Adira," she murmured as her eyes fluttered open. Before the vengeful spirit could strike Silas, the master leapt into the air, producing talismans from his mouth and slapping them onto her in rapid succession. Amid Silas's enraged roar, the ghost's malevolent aura pierced the heavens before the master sealed her into a spirit-trapping pouch. Silas grabbed his sword and lunged at his master with murderous intent. "I'll kill you. Give Fiona back to me. Give her back." With a mere flick of his hand, the master sent Silas flying 10 feet away. "I was going to make Fiona a cloak. After finally obtaining the pelt of a purebred nine-tailed fox, I was so close to seeing her again." The master snatched my tail with an icy expression. "If you're so desperate to see Fiona, then go meet her in the underworld." The blade pierced Silas's chest in an instant, his eyes wide open, forever unseeing. Tears blurred my vision as I sniffled, knowing I'd been fortunate enough. Fate granted me a second chance to see my master again, to rewrite my own destiny. May those who wronged me meet with bitter ends. Under the full moon's glow, I slipped unseen into the royal manor. Though Adira was not my purpose, this royal mansion has become a living hell, its cursed location trapping vengeful spirits that refuse to depart. If left unresolved, these wrathful ghosts will eventually break free and wreak havoc upon the common folk, having been honored with the title of Grand Master. I cannot stand idly by. The mansion stood in eerie silence, not even a maid could be found, devoid of any signs of life. Wraiths drifted about with piercing shrieks, yet my vital energy kept them at bay. Following the female specter's presence, I reached the study and opened the hidden chamber. "Sister, you've come to save me." 5. Adira cried out excitedly. The chamber was dank and oppressive, yet a hole in the ceiling allowed moonlight to stream in. Where the moonlight fell stood an ice bed, upon which Adira lay motionless. The ice bed gleamed crystal clear, while her body decayed like rotting sludge. I turned my head, but Silas was nowhere to be seen. My heart sank as I looked up and spotted a concealed black net hanging above the chamber, ready to descend. This is a long-lost magical artifact. In an instant, I realized their plan, to transform me into an extreme physique like Adira's using that net. I cast my talismans, but escape proved impossible. Bound tight in the dark web's grasp, Adira leapt from the bed, her violet eyes blazing with excitement. "I knew that fool would come, my lord. Now the demons will be drawn to her instead of feasting on our flesh." Silas emerged slowly, wearing an inscrutable smile. I stared at that idiot Adira. She still hadn't realized Silas was the mastermind behind everything. "Your sister's nothing special. Didn't expect her to be this easy to capture." Silas grinned widely as I noticed the female ghost on his shoulder growing restless, drooling all over the floor at the sight of me. "How disgusting." Silas clapped his hands and moved me onto the ice-cold bed. Adira applauded with venomous glee. "Mire, facing your end, any last requests for your dear sister? If I'm feeling generous, I might humor you." Moonlight washed over me as my life force drained away, and the female ghost began greedily devouring my essence, yet Silas pushed her aside, sitting beside me to stroke my face. "If Fiona had a face like this," he mused, "I wouldn't say no." He then let out a lewd chuckle. Adira desperately tried to pull him away, only to be slapped aside. "Ugly wretch, I've had enough of you. You're not half as useful as your sister. Just a few puffs and you turned into this disgusting mess." Under Adira's disbelieving gaze, Silas rose to his feet and laughed triumphantly. "Go on, Fiona. Devour her. Come back to life." The moonlight grew brighter. Just as Fiona was about to lick my hand, I tore free from the black net and hurled the ice bed at Silas. "Like hell I will. You're the one who's gonna die." I leapt into the air, my 9 tails swelling in size as I whipped them fiercely at the pair. Amid their panicked screams, I hoisted the ice slab once more and hurled it at the trembling Silas and Adira. No, the two collapsed to the ground, their blood flooding the corner, though most of it was Silas's. Adira was already just a breath away from death when the vengeful spirit, sensing her weakness, devoured her last gasp and possessed her body. "Sister, save me." Before she could finish her plea, her life slipped away. As the corpse began to bloat, I didn't hesitate. Drawing my peachwood sword, I drove it straight through her. Bang! Adira's body shattered into pieces as the female specter shrieked, pinned helplessly beneath my sword. Hungry, I released my grip. "There's another meal over there." Under Silas' disbelieving gaze, the wraith frenziedly devoured his flesh, her piercing wails echoing through the chamber. I raised my peachwood sword and impaled both the man and the ghost in one strike. "Since you love each other so dearly, you may die together. This is the romantic ending I've prepared for you." With the creditor dead, the vengeful spirits in the manor lost their will, one by one. I sealed them into my demon-purging pouch and affixed purification talismans. No sooner had I finished than the imperial guards arrived in full force. I was escorted into the royal palace. The emperor inquired with evident satisfaction, "Great master, you've rid our kingdom of evil through tremendous effort. Name your reward." Bowing my head in thought, I ventured, "Any reward. This subject does have an audacious request to make. Speak freely." Drawing myself upright, I met the emperor's gaze. "Though beast folk and humans share this land, we're divided by rank and privilege, yet through these events, I've learned one's true nature, not birth, determines worth. Orcs possess innate physical prowess. Harnessing their strengths would bring considerable benefits to our kingdom. I beseech your majesty to permit orc enrollment in our academies, to let those hiding in the mountains live alongside humans, to grant them access to education, civility, and the freedom to live without fear. I dream of the day when orcs and humans coexist in harmony, jointly contributing to our nation's prosperity." I dropped to my knees with a thud, clasping my fists. "Your servant volunteers to become the test case for this judgment. No matter how arduous the journey or how few travel companions remain, let them mock and scorn. Their words hold no power over me." Under my hopeful gaze, the emperor finally gave a slow nod. Night receded as dawn's first light broke across the horizon. I stepped slowly out of the palace, certain that the freedom I spoke of would one day come. The end. Next story. My neighbor seems to have been reborn, or possibly returned from an apocalyptic future. She hoards supplies recklessly using her space, buys materials frantically, and has even cut ties with the family who abandoned her in her past life, to report to the authorities. I had no choice but to disguise myself as a good neighbor and secretly observe her. Eventually, to her horror, she found that the apocalypse seemed not to have arrived. As I stepped out of the house I was temporarily renting with the landlord, I happened to bump into Elise returning home, petite and thin. She looked around cautiously as she went upstairs, always on alert. Due to my professional habits, my gaze suspiciously fell on the numerous shopping bags in her hands: 20 packs of compressed biscuits, 5 boxes of self-heating rice, 2 boxes of instant noodles, 10 cans of meat, 20 packs of sugar, a dozen energy drinks, duct tape, space blankets, blackout curtains. These were all supplies typically reserved for disaster preparedness or relief. Given her small stature and delicate limbs, clearly lacking physical strength, she was not likely an outdoor adventure enthusiast. So what was she buying all these for? Seeing me pause thoughtfully, the landlord simply handed me the keys to apartment 605. She casually reminded me to check out the apartment again if I wished, before leisurely heading upstairs to collect rent. Meanwhile, Elise hurriedly darted into apartment 603, slamming the iron door as if to evade someone. Soon after, a middle-aged woman holding a chubby child chased up to this floor, desperately pounding on the door. "Elise, you ungrateful wretch, how dare you sell the house behind our backs? I'm telling you, you have to transfer the property to Bryce. If not, don't you dare call me mom. I'll act as if I never had you as a daughter." The woman cursed several times, breathless from exertion. The chubby boy, about 6 or 7 years old, also showed a fierce look in his beady eyes, imitating the adults. He kicked the door a few times and cursed along, "You ungrateful wretch." Pleased with the scene, Elise's mother then pulled the child into her arms and loudly issued an ultimatum to the people inside: "Next month Bryce is starting kindergarten, and if we can't move into your school district house, I'll sue you for being unfilial. I'll also bring Bryce to your company and create a scene until your job is gone, so you can't enjoy your conscienceless good life." She rudely spat several times towards the doorway and walked away cursing. After the commotion in the corridor had completely subsided, the door to 603 slowly opened. A pale-faced Elise stared in the direction the mother and child had disappeared, muttering to herself, "Huh, not only did you take over my house in my past life, but you cold-heartedly drove me out and left me to die in the apocalypse. How could I be so foolish now that I've been reborn? Such a cursed family, better off without them." The petite girl emitted a surprising amount of hatred, her eyes firmly resolved as she closed the door. Standing unnoticed in a blind spot, I accidentally witnessed the entire scene clearly. Past life, apocalypse. This sounded quite intriguing. Just then, the landlord, having finished collecting rent, came downstairs, her face beaming as she smiled at me. "How do you like it, Miss Fiona? Is apartment 605 to your satisfaction?" "Very much so." After prepaying the deposit and rent, I immediately moved into the empty room. Once I confirmed that apartment 605 had no hidden cameras or listening devices, I casually sat down on the floor. "Carson, pull up someone's records for me, especially medical records. Check if she has a history of mental illness." In less than 10 minutes, my colleague from the Special Intelligence Department sent over Elise's detailed profile. According to the records, Elise is 26 years old and was employed at a promising news media company. The young woman had saved diligently to buy a studio apartment in a suburb of City A, but 3 days ago, Elise not only quit her promising job but also mortgaged her newly renovated apartment to the bank, borrowing $1 million. At this moment, my 5 years of excellent performance in special intelligence told me that there was something wrong with this girl. Could she really have been reborn? As for the apocalypse, in these peaceful and prosperous times, could it really be coming? Too busy until 2 in the afternoon. I finally finished cleaning the 50 square meter rental. As I was dragging 2 heavy black trash bags downstairs, I ran into Elise from across the hall. She was descending the stairs while making a phone call, seemingly reserving a table at a restaurant. Upon seeing me, a stranger, she scanned me warily. However, seeing my dusty and disheveled appearance, she slowly let down her guard. Thinking of establishing a rapport with the target, I smiled warmly and greeted her. "Hello, I'm Fiona, the new tenant in apartment 605. I'll be counting on your support in the future." Elise ignored me and walked down the stairs by herself. I followed Elise downstairs, pretending to casually carry a heavy trash bag, always keeping a 5-step distance from her. Taking advantage of a few steps ahead, I could clearly see the content on her phone with my excellent eyesight. Elise was browsing a forum discussing post-apocalyptic fantasies and was making a list of supplies to hoard. After descending the stairs, she drove off in an off-road vehicle from the parking lot, familiar with the road conditions and maintaining a steady speed. However, according to her records, Elise had never learned to drive, didn't even have a driver's license, and the car was rented temporarily. I hesitated for a few seconds between reporting her for driving without a license to the Transportation Authority and continuing to observe her. Eventually, I chose to hail a taxi parked by the roadside. "Mr. Please follow that off-road vehicle up ahead." "Why, she's driving pretty fast, and I'm a law-abiding citizen, you know." The taxi driver, speaking with a local accent, reluctantly drove slowly. I had no choice but to flash my ID in front of him, which scared him into stepping on the gas to catch up with Elise, stopping in front of a duck blood noodle soup restaurant. Duck blood noodle soup. I was sure that this restaurant only sold duck blood noodle soup and was not involved in any illegal transactions. To figure out Elise's purpose, I disguised myself and sat in a corner to eat. I watched as Elise devoured 5 bowls of duck blood noodle soup almost without chewing, swallowing the food the moment it reached her mouth, her eating becoming almost compulsively mechanical towards the end. I frowned and noted down my observations. Elise's behavior was indicative of a stress response from experiencing severe, prolonged hunger. After finishing 5 hot bowls, she even licked the bowls clean. Before leaving, she asked the owner to pack up 50 extra spicy servings of duck blood noodle soup. Elise then ran through several streets, ordering food from different restaurants. As I passed her, I overheard her whispering, Visiting multiple restaurants makes it less noticeable. After all, with so many customers, how could the owners remember what I ordered?" Watching Elise happily bounce into her car and drive away, I shook my head helplessly. "Boss, what did that girl in the white dress order?" "Oh, that young lady, she ordered 50 servings of duck blood soup. It's my first time seeing someone pack so much. I remember it clearly. Oh, she ordered 50 servings of pork intestine noodles. Oh, she ordered 50 servings of crossing the bridge rice noodles." The restaurant owners had a lasting impression of her. They completely exposed Elise's cover. Her excuse for ordering was invariably work overtime meals for her company, but according to my investigation, she had already resigned from her company. Who was she packing hundreds of servings of food for in a single day? After making rounds in the city and returning fully loaded, Elise drove back to the residential complex, the off-road vehicle parked at the entrance. Elise walked towards the property management office with a satisfied smile and light steps. Meanwhile, I strolled to the off-road vehicle and discreetly disabled its alarm system. When Elise got out of the car, she was empty-handed, meaning the packed food was still in the vehicle. However, after a thorough inspection, I confirmed that the hidden compartment in the back of the driver's seat was indeed empty. Stepping down from the vehicle, I solemnly used the hidden camera on me to take evidence. At that moment, I realized there was a terrifying secret about Elise. I entered the property management office just as it was Elise's turn to receive service. Pretending to report an issue with the fire safety system on the 6th floor, I sat a few people away from her. Elise paid a substantial amount to rent a 200 square meter unused warehouse in the complex. Learning that there were no cameras installed inside, she excitedly paid a month's rent on the spot and obtained the keys. She claimed she wanted to start a business and store goods there, requesting confidentiality from the property management. Not only can the warehouse keep things out of sight, and began cooperating. "I can't reveal her exact address to avoid the apocalypse," Elise muttered under her breath, thinking herself clever for hoarding supplies when the end times come and living comfortably. I followed her, keeping a distance of about a meter. listening to her murmured thoughts with a complex feeling on my face. Without proper certification or a business license, it was impossible for her, a small office drone, to run a business out of a 200-square-meter warehouse. Could it be that she really was hoarding supplies? So, is there really an apocalypse coming? But from the various pieces of information currently held by the state, everything in the world seems normal. No unusual tectonic movements, no extreme weather events, and no fatal biochemical experiments leaking. Back at the apartment, just as I was speculating about the type of apocalypse Elise might have experienced, I suddenly received a call from Cedric, the captain of the Special Affairs team. "Fiona, how's your vacation going?" he asked in a gentle and benevolent tone, shedding his usual stern solemnity. Before I could organize my thoughts to report today's findings, he rambled on again. "I see you had a serving of duck blood vermicelli soup, a serving of fatty intestine noodles, a serving of noodles, and a serving of tomato and egg sauce noodles today. Binge eating is not a good habit for young people." Today, while I was tracking Elise to gather intelligence, I used the official card for expenses, so the Special Affairs Department had records of it. I glanced at the packed noodles on the table, cleared my throat, and started my report with a serious tone. From the moment I encountered Elise to leaving the property management office, I had packed every detail, including photos and recordings, and sent them over through a secure channel. "Boss, I've discovered unusual intelligence in City A. It seems like a person named Elise has been reborn from an apocalypse. I suspect she also possesses a type of space-time freeze, with over 100 bowls of noodly soup disappearing in the car, and still not clumping together. Her space must have some special storage function." Hearing this, Cedric pondered for a few seconds. Then I heard him instruct softly, "Lee, schedule a psychological assessment for Fiona." Just as I was about to explain, he rattled off again. "Fiona, is the pressure of working in the Special Affairs Department getting to you? I understand you young people enjoy apocalypse rebirth novels, but don't take them too seriously. Not enough vacation time. I can give you another month and arrange for a specialist to provide you with psychological counseling." Distracted by the 100 bowls of noodles, I then realized that my speculations about the apocalypse were indeed a bit fanciful. Without solid evidence, such information wouldn't be acknowledged by the Special Intelligence Department, so I must continue observing, proving that Elise is a reborn apocalypse survivor while gathering more information about the apocalypse. "Captain, I have to go." "What's the matter?" "My Apocalypse Reborn novel just updated." "Goodbye." The next day, fully equipped, Elise left her house early. I followed her to the building materials market, sitting in an inconspicuous van, watching her movements. First, Elise rented a large truck from a dealership, mumbling to herself while picking up the keys. "Can't have deliveries to my door. It would expose my exact address post-apocalypse." People became more energetic and no longer needed any tea. "I am a good citizen. I will definitely cooperate with the authorities." He turned around, copied a list of goods from his ledger, and handed it to me. As I turned to head to the next shop, he mysteriously pulled me aside and handed me his mobile phone. On the screen was a group chat full of hardware store owners. The chat was filled with hardware store owners discussing, accompanied by a long list of supplies. "Guys, I got a big order today. This morning, a young lady bought a batch of thermal insulation materials from me, and she even asked me to come over tomorrow to install sealed windows and underfloor heating. She came to my place too. Ordered a combustion fireplace, solar panels, and a generator. What do you think she's up to?" "Hey, now that you mention it, I remember a girl who asked me for blackout curtains, soundproofing cotton, door seals, and even inquired if I could install an electric grid and bulletproof glass." Everyone in the group was chiming in, and within moments, they had completely exposed Elisa's secret procurement operations. The complete list was in my hands in less than 10 minutes. Thermal insulation, underfloor heating, heaters. Is she preparing for some sort of severe ice age apocalypse? As I left, the hardware store owner was reluctantly expressive. "Comrade, we've noticed this person has been acting suspiciously, buying all sorts of things, and that big truck of hers is really strange. As soon as the goods are loaded, they disappear by the time she reaches the next stop. What normal person does this? If she's a dangerous element, you must catch her." I nodded, shook his hand, and thanked him. Elise drove her truck slowly. By the time I caught up in my van back to the neighborhood, she had just reached the warehouse door. The real drama was about to begin. I immediately turned on the warehouse's internal surveillance and requested a live connection with the Special Situations Department. The property management claimed there were no cameras in the warehouse, but special circumstances called for special measures. Once the live feed connected, Cedric the head of the Special Situations Department, appeared on the screen with a kindly face. "Fiona, I heard you bought a lot of hardware at the building materials market today. What's the matter? Feeling overwhelmed? I think you should stop reading those post-apocalyptic novels. They're getting to you." He spoke with a gentle, smiling tone, surrounded by members of the Special Situations Department. I was speechless for a moment before directly streaming the warehouse's surveillance footage to them. Everyone watched as Elise waved her hand and the goods from the truck moved into a space. With another wave of her hand, she placed them on the empty space in the warehouse. Finally, content, she took out a steaming bowl of spicy intestines noodles from the space and started eating with delight. Everyone was shocked and fell silent. Cedric was the first to recover, frowning uncertainly. "Fiona, is this some kind of post-apocalyptic movie? The filming technique is quite unique, Captain. This is live surveillance," I explained helplessly, signaling the technicians on the screen to verify the authenticity of the footage. Several tech experts immediately started analyzing the warehouse surveillance with their computers. After a thorough professional analysis, it was confirmed that those images were indeed not edited. The Special Situations Department members were shocked, exchanging silent glances. Although it was known that there were people with special abilities among the public, a space manipulating ability was unheard of. Cedric, who had always been skeptical about my theories on the apocalypse, also changed his expression. After pondering for a moment, he finally decided to investigate the matter. "Fiona, did you get the list of materials Elise bought today?" "Yes, Captain." "Carson, take the list and a search warrant to the warehouse tomorrow. Say it's to inspect for unauthorized construction." "Calvin, pull up all surveillance footage of Elise from the past month and investigate her activities." "Haley, thoroughly check recent unusual reports, especially those related to climate change." "Fiona, try to make contact with Elise. I need more evidence." "Understood, Captain." For the Special Situations Department, it was an unbelievable night. The information I currently held was still insufficient to convince the vast machinery of the state to act, but at least, the apocalyptic issue was making some progress. That night, Elise slept deeply, unaware that her information was fully exposed to the authorities. Early the next morning, she resumed her hoarding behavior like a hamster stocking up. Following a list from an apocalyptic post, Elise drove to the largest local wholesale market. I followed in a van, with Carson, a technical expert skilled in tracking and eavesdropping, sitting beside me. This meant I no longer needed to keep close tabs on Elise myself. She started by hoarding a large amount of food at the wholesale market: 500 cases of bottled water, 200 cases of instant noodles, 300 cases of compressed biscuits, 100 cases each of self-heating hot pots in 5 flavors, 500 cans each of pork, beef, lamb, and fish, 200 bags each of salt and sugar, 100 gin of cured meat, spicy beef hot pot, mushroom beef, curry beef, so many flavors of hot pot to slowly enjoy. When the time comes, no matter how much those ghostly family members beg, I won't open the door or give them anything. I want them to freeze and starve outside, to taste the despair I felt in my past life. In a deserted corner of the wholesale market, while Elise couldn't help but cover her mouth and giggle, muttering under her breath, to observe her closely, I got out of the van and stationed myself not far from the corner. After hearing her mumbling, I frowned and remotely connected with Carson in the van to make sure the eavesdropping was being recorded, then asked again, "Lee, are you sure she doesn't have a history of mental illness?" Then Elise moved on to sweep through the living supplies area. She picked up 200 sets of winter clothes, including pants, coats, and quilts, 200 boxes of disposable underwear and socks, 100 boxes of sanitary pads, 50 boxes each of toothbrushes and toothpaste, binoculars, cartridge stoves, alcohol stoves, oxygen tanks, gas masks, high-rise survival ropes. She also collected small weapons like Swiss Army knives, stun guns, and pepper spray. Seeing the list of weapons, I clicked my tongue in regret. What a pity, Elise is still too timid. If only she was bold enough to purchase firearms through illegal channels, I could have simply taken her in. It would have been so much easier to bring her in for a talk officially. From morning till night, Elise went home with a van full of goods. Of course, what she took was only a small part of her total supplies. Due to her massive demand, the wholesale market needed more time to arrange everything. "Fiona, are we really going to let her have all this?" She borrowed the money from the bank to hoard these supplies. If it really were the apocalypse, she wouldn't have to pay it back. It's like she's aiming to get everything for free. Carson was dumbfounded as he filled 10 pages of A4 paper with the long list of supplies, clearly indignant. I thought for a moment and shook my head. She won't get it. The market authorities will soon catch on to her. I'm calling the police to catch you all. She tenderly helped up Elise's father and took out her phone to call the police, but was stopped by the guilt-ridden Elise's father. I curved my lips into a smile and casually picked up Bryce, who was coming at me with claws and fists. Go ahead and call the police. I want to see if the police will handle your kidnapping and human trafficking case. Elise's mother panicked, rushing over like a mother hen trying to snatch back her son. Bryce. Let go of my Bryce. Elise is my biological daughter. What human trafficking? She held the frightened Bryce and argued loudly, but clearly lacked confidence. As the sound of approaching police sirens grew closer, the guilty members of Elise's family quickly got into their cars and fled. Whimpering, Elise squatted on the ground, hugging her knees and sobbing painfully, her cries giving me a headache. The team leader wanted me to make contact with the target person, but I felt like I had gotten myself into big trouble. Elise's front door was kicked down, so I had no choice but to temporarily take her back to my apartment. As she nestled in a corner of the sofa and sobbed softly, I reluctantly handed her a notebook. Is this notebook yours? The cover boldly read Survival Guide to the Apocalypse. It was indeed the little notebook Elise used to list her apocalypse survival plans and supply lists. Elise, initially immersed in the sorrow of her family's preference for males over females, suddenly woke up. She quickly looked up and snatched the notebook back into her arms, her face full of weariness. Rebirth and the apocalypse were her biggest secrets, which she absolutely could not let slip. Pretending to be unaware, I smiled at her kindly. I was just trying to find the owner of the notebook. Sorry for taking a peek. Are you a writer, or just interested in apocalyptic themes? I see you've written quite a bit about apocalypse-related materials. Caught off guard, Elise nodded frantically. Yes. I love reading about apocalyptic scenarios, so I took some notes. Haha, she laughed nervously, unaware of how stiff her facial expression was. Seeing this, I couldn't help but wonder if this person could really survive in an apocalypse. As the atmosphere grew silent, to lower Elise's guard I continued the conversation. What a coincidence. I'm also interested in apocalyptic themes, although it's a bit presumptuous. I must say some of the information you've collected seems a bit off. Perhaps because of my gentle tone, Elise gradually calmed down. She tilted her head and finally couldn't resist asking out of curiosity, where is the mistake? I easily tricked the notebook out of her hands again, cleared my throat, and began to correct her. For example, you've stockpiled generators, but generators generally need batteries, and battery resources are consumed too highly. You might try hand-cranked or solar ones. Stockpiling firewood for burning isn't feasible, as smoke on high floors can't be concealed and may expose your location. For calcium and protein, don't buy milk as it easily spoils. Consider protein powder or vitamin pills instead. For the issue of using the toilet during water outages, I wouldn't recommend cat litter. Instead, try compressed rice husk bedding used in farms, which after use can also be composted to significantly reduce waste. Lastly, if you're lacking practical knowledge, I suggest you buy the 1969 Barefoot Doctor's Manual, the 1984 Military and Civilian Talent Companion, or the 1959 Militia Military Training Manual, which I believe will be useful to you. After a lengthy analysis, Elise's look at me changed. She became even more wary. Somewhat resignedly, I pulled out my veteran ID from an inner pocket of my clothing and showed it to her. I've served in the military and have some knowledge in these areas. I later joined a special agency, though of course, there was no need to tell her that. Knowing I was a retired military personnel, Elise's tense body suddenly relaxed, the panic visibly faded from her round little face. Then, fiddling with the corner of her clothes, she stammered a question to me. So, if I wanted to buy a gun, what channels are there? I raised an eyebrow, signaling to Carson, who was hiding in the next room, not to act rashly. Then I patiently explained to her, the type of apocalypse you're envisioning involves extreme cold, right? Yes. Carson next door flicked his ears, and the keyboard clattered as he typed up the report. Common handguns being circulated in the black market are just scrap metal in extremely cold conditions. The precision of firearm accessories declines. Gun oil goes bad, and it's easy for the guns to jam or misfire. Moreover, firearms wear out, and bullets have a shelf life and are easily scrapped. All in all, for ordinary people, cold weapons are more practical. After this analysis, Elise felt dizzy and couldn't understand a thing. However, she was relieved to finally understand one critical thing. With her own intelligence alone, she simply couldn't survive in a post-apocalyptic world, so Elise decided to find teammates and stick with them. Elise cautiously stood up, drew the curtains, and locked the door. Then she sat next to me, her face tense, and took my hand solemnly to reveal the biggest secret of her life. What I'm about to say might sound incredible, but you must believe me. All right, go ahead. I nodded to reassure her, guessing what she wanted to confess. Elise took a deep breath and finally made up her mind. Actually, I was reborn from a post-apocalyptic world. Under her anxious gaze, I showed no sign of surprise. Do you have any evidence? I neither believed nor disbelieved her outright. Instead, I continued to ask her for evidence of this post-apocalyptic world. This was crucial as I needed solid evidence to convince the national authorities to take action. Elise, who had prepared herself to be disbelieved and to explain a lot, was taken aback by my question. She collapsed on the sofa, furrowing her brow as she thought hard. I patiently sat beside her, and, thoughtful enough, poured her a glass of water as she seemed tired from all the thinking. After about half an hour, Elise perked up. Next, I will tell you 10 things that you can wait and see happen. Okay, good. I pulled out a notebook from my pocket and began to write, while Carson in the next room was ready at his keyboard. On August 28, 2024, at 8 p.m., a massive red aurora will break out over H province. On September 1, 2024, a fire will occur in a residential block in a city, resulting in 41 deaths and 123 severe burns. On September 2, 2024, a truck driver on an overpass in G City will suffer a heart attack, causing a chain reaction crash with many casualties. On September 5, 2024, a magnitude 7 earthquake will strike D region, causing countless injuries and deaths. Elise slowly recalled each major news event from that year. Luckily, she worked in the media and was highly sensitive and attentive to such information. She not only remembered the precise dates and locations but could also recite detailed data. These events included natural disasters and human accidents, and if they came true, they would prove her claims. I focused on taking notes, while Carson in the next room was fiercely typing away. After stating these predictions, Elise completely collapsed. Do you believe me? You don't think I'm crazy, do you? As I left, she suddenly grabbed my hand nervously. I smiled and nodded, handing her a bank card worth 200,000 yuan. I believe you. Since Elise acknowledged that we were teammates, she moved into my house. Even the next morning, she suddenly started dragging me to stock up at the grain market. I sat in the passenger seat of the truck, chatting with her sporadically while organizing clues about the details of the apocalypse: lack of water resources, temperatures as low as -70 degrees, damaged power networks, communication cutoffs, transportation halts, and national order collapsing. Elise reached the grain warehouse. Sir, I'd like to buy 1,000 bags of rice, 50 tons. Sorry, there's a limit on grain purchases now. A single person can only buy 2 bags. Would you like them? Elise then went to the farm. I need to purchase 30 tons each of cabbage, rapeseed, spinach, and scallions, plus 40 bags of seeds for each, said the customer. Sorry, but there's a limit on vegetable purchases right now. How about I weigh out a few fresh pounds for you to stir-fry at home? The shop owner replied. Elise arrived at the slaughterhouse. I'd like to buy 200 live cows, sheep, pigs, and chickens each, and 5 tons of fresh meat, she requested. Sorry, there's a limit on meat purchases now. How about just taking a chicken home to stew? The shop owner suggested. After shopping around, the corner of Elise's large truck was still unfilled. Faced with the sudden imposition of food purchase limits, she turned pale and nervously grabbed my hand. What's going on? Has something happened? At that moment, I was wearing headphones, listening intently to a series of reports from Carson. Hearing her, I gently closed my notebook and shook my head. It's nothing. If anything, it was a good sign, indicating that the authorities were already aware of the apocalyptic news and were beginning to take action. On the 10th day after Elise moved into my place, I was urgently recalled by the Special Affairs Department. It was the night of August 28, 2024, just 3 days ago. A rare red aurora burst over H City, fulfilling Elise's first prophecy. The team leader sent me the assembly location in a neighborhood filled with old residential buildings in a city. According to the prophecy, at 6 p.m., lightning would strike one of the buildings and cause a fire that would kill many. I arrived at the scene at 5:30 p.m. The residents of the building had already been evacuated, and the fire department was on standby nearby, but the weather was clear and sunny, with no thunderstorm warnings issued by the meteorological department. Many officials gathered, quietly observing, while the nearby residents were confused. 5:58 p.m., 5:59 p.m., 6:00 p.m., boom, suddenly, thunder roared, and the top of the old residential building caught fire instantly. Cedric methodically issued firefighting commands, instructing the fire department to assess the original fire level and casualty numbers. Standing among the crowd, I watched Elise, who was breathlessly rushing to the scene. Seeing the smoke but the building otherwise intact, she froze, then looked confusedly at the ready officials. The residents who had survived the disaster cheered around her, hugging their families and shedding tears of excitement. In disbelief, she muttered softly, "Can it really be changed?" Is it actually possible to change? I closed my notebook and walked over in my uniform. Thank you for the information, I said. Elisa's face scrunched up in confusion and then anger. Are you in league with them? Seeing me nod in confirmation, she angrily turned and ran away. I didn't have time to chase after her, as the third and fourth prophecies were about to happen soon. On a freeway overpass in G City, traffic inspectors stopped a truck driver with a heart condition. 20 minutes before a magnitude 7 earthquake in D area, the government issued an emergency evacuation order. The day the national machinery officially announced its operation, I received orders to bring Elise back to the Special Affairs Department. When I returned to the apartment, I unexpectedly found the door to apartment 605 wide open. As I entered, Elisa's family had shown up again. This time they didn't abduct anyone, but they laid out many documents in front of her. I've raised you for so many years, calculating at 30,000 per year. You owe the family 660,000, said her father. Since you don't want to return to the village to get married, then pay us back, or else I'll take you to court, he threatened. If I don't get the money today, I'll just stay here and not leave. You don't have to pay back the money. Just sign this document transferring your apartment to Bryce, otherwise, we don't consider you our daughter anymore, Elisa's father, along with Bryce and several relatives, crowded into my apartment, creating a mess. Elise, with her hair disheveled and a fresh slap mark on her face, was pressed by her mother to sign at the table. Seeing her daughter refusing to sign, Elisa's mother raised her eyebrows and was about to slap her again when I stepped forward and grabbed her wrist, pushing it aside. Ouch, now you're hitting people, she exclaimed. I'm going to sue you. The thin, frail woman pretended to be hurt and lay on the floor, refusing to get up. The surrounding relatives initially wanted to step forward, but last time, after being kicked by me, he was too scared to do anything but quietly stay put. I pulled Elise behind me and dialed the phone with an expressionless face. Captain, I'm bringing someone back now. There's an unauthorized entry into my private residence. Can you get some people from the neighboring unit over here? Elisa's father lunged at me, trying to snatch my phone, but a kick from me subdued him again. Seeing that I was really calling for help, Elisa's family scattered in all directions. Once everything calmed down, Elise clung to me and began to sob uncontrollably. After she cried her tears dry, I patted her on the shoulder. Wipe your tears and come with me. Where to? Elise took the tissue, her eyes red as she sniffled. I pulled out a badge from an inner pocket of my clothes and flashed it in front of her. Fiona from Division 1 of the Special Affairs Department. From today on, I'm officially your protector. The higher-ups want to see you. Come with me. Until she sat in the special interrogation room of the Special Affairs Department, Elise still hadn't snapped out of it. Outside the interrogation room were various leaders and researchers from China. This morning, they had finally received a disturbing report from the team of scientists. The report indicated that, for unknown reasons, the sun was rapidly aging and had reached the status of a red giant star. This was catastrophic news. The Chinese authorities were now fully convinced of the impending apocalypse, and the priority was to understand the details and find ways to cope. Originally, someone else was supposed to talk to Elise, but she remained silent and unresponsive. I will only talk to Fiona, so I sat across from her and candidly recounted everything that had happened since the day I moved into my apartment. After listening, Elise leaned on the table, her head bowed in silence for a long time. Then she looked up and asked me softly, "Did you save me from them just to use me?" I frowned and closed my notebook, shaking my head honestly. No, gathering intelligence is my duty, but even if you had no intelligence value, I would still save you. If you don't trust me, you can trust them. The state will never harm you. Elisa's eyes reddened again as she took the hot water I handed her and sipped slowly. After a long while, she looked up and smiled at me. "I believe you." She glanced around nervously and then demonstrated the power of space under the surveillance cameras. With a wave of her hand, the space-stored supplies instantly filled the interrogation room. Seeing this, the insiders exchanged knowing looks, their faces grave. Someone quickly came in to take the items out for verification. Then Elise sat down and began to recount her memories of the apocalypse from her previous life. We're 1 month away from a solar flare eruption. The severe electromagnetic pulses destroyed satellite equipment and disrupted electronic signals. A geomagnetic storm swept across the globe, and electricity was instantly lost. Then the sun entered a weak phase, and global temperatures plummeted to -70 degrees Celsius. In the extreme cold of the apocalypse, species went extinct, and everything was buried under blizzards. As she spoke, the faces of those in the know grew more serious. After Elise finished, Carson came to take her to a designated dormitory for rest. The internal meeting was intense, and I was called aside by the head of the Special Affairs Department, Cedric. "Fiona, thank you for your efforts." I shook hands with him, serving the people. After that day, China's apocalypse plan officially started. The senior officials held a press conference and urgently called on the entire population to start preparations. Elise didn't want to be confined to the Special Affairs Department and watched the apocalypse preparations under the accompaniment of security. Fiona, why are underground shelters being built? The steel and concrete of skyscrapers will deform and burst under rapid freezing, and they won't last long before collapsing. Fiona, what are they burying? She asked. It's a geothermal pipeline system to maintain subsurface temperatures and prevent the soil and groundwater from freezing, I explained. Fiona, Elise chattered away, asking all sorts of questions until she suddenly fell silent. What's wrong? I asked, checking the blueprints for the underground structure. When I noticed Elise had gone quiet, she looked down nervously, her fingers tightly twisting the hem of her clothes, her voice so low it was almost inaudible. Fiona, am I being selfish? She murmured, knowing the news of the apocalypse, but only focusing on hoarding supplies for myself. I could have saved so many people if I had reported it to the nation. Tears the size of beans slid down her cheeks, which she hastily wiped away with her hand. I paused for a moment, then handed her a tissue. After a moment of thought, I reached out and comforted her by patting her head. You've done very well. I reassured her, because of your rebirth, we were able to learn of the apocalypse and start the national machinery in advance. Your very existence has given hope to millions. Elise lifted her tear-stained face and stammered, really, yes. Upon receiving my earnest reply, she couldn't hold back any longer and burst into tears, throwing herself into my arms. Fiona, I'm so glad to have met you. A month later, the extreme cold apocalypse Elise had spoken of indeed arrived. The first challenge of the apocalypse was the environment. Temperatures dropping to -70 degrees Celsius would result in the death of 80% of the population. The nation announced the locations of shelters 5 days in advance and declared a full evacuation. Each underground shelter was vast, with walls made of thick insulation materials that blocked out the cold air. The shelters were equipped with central temperature control systems to maintain a basic living environment. All citizens orderly registered their information, accepted their allocations, and received basic supply packages. A new order and currency of credits were established, turning all labor contributions and surrendered materials into points. The second challenge was food. In harsh survival conditions, countless people died from hunger or violence over a few morsels of food. In the last month, the nation centralized control over the national granaries and urgently harvested crops from all regions. Wheat, soybeans, corn, sweet potatoes, and highland barley, vegetables and fruits were dehydrated and turned into comprehensive nutritional packs. Food processing plants produced large quantities of compressed biscuits, energy bars, rice packs, noodle cakes, and seasonings. Livestock such as pigs, cattle, sheep, and chickens were sent to slaughterhouses, and aquaculture farms were drained for harvesting. The extreme cold apocalypse served as a natural freezer, allowing fresh meat to be stored. Besides being processed into canned goods and jerkies, basic supply factories added production lines, stockpiling essential items like toilet paper for 10 years' worth of use. As for water resources, each shelter was built near a stable underground water source. Research institutes introduced large, advanced water purification devices, ensuring 70% of water resources were recyclable. The third challenge was production and communication. Resources were constantly being consumed, and production was necessary to avoid depletion. Before the apocalypse, the nation widely promoted low-temperature cultivation techniques and developed frost-resistant seeds. Batches of preserved livestock and fish species were distributed across the regions. After population migration, each shelter rapidly recruited labor to expand underground planting and breeding bases. Technical talents nationwide were summoned to expedite the transfer of electricity and communication systems underground. The military maintained absolute control over weapons stationed at shelters, with the national government remaining unbreakable. Industries gradually resumed production, maintaining order during the apocalypse. No one knew when the apocalypse would end, but at least life wasn't too bad. As a special contributor affecting the fate of the whole nation, Elise received a protection order. Elise's family was arranged to another shelter, and it was unlikely they would ever meet again. On a peaceful and calm night, I finished work at the Central Shelter's Special Affairs Department and headed home. Elise knocked and peeked in, then breezed into the room. She pulled out supplies from her space, casually setting a table full of dishes. Today, sister's treating you to hot pot. From now on, we'll eat well and live a beautiful life, she declared. Her supplies hadn't been confiscated, it was allowed by the higher-ups. I took out some cola I exchanged with credits from the cabinet and placed it on the table. The rich scent of butter wafted through the room, steam rising everywhere. As we ate, Elise started laughing, but soon her eyes welled up with tears as she looked up at me. It feels like the apocalypse has come, and yet it hasn't, she said. I picked up a fish ball with my chopsticks and placed it in her bowl, smiling. You saved them. You saved everyone. She took a bite of the fish ball, scalding her mouth with the hot broth and struggling to speak. Fiona, do you think the apocalypse will ever end? She asked. I took a sip of the hot soup, smiled, and didn't answer. It will. This united nation has endured countless hardships and still stands strong. I believe its unyielding spirit will ultimately welcome a new dawn.